Intuitive eating is not what you think it is, and so today we're going to break down exactly what it is and what it isn't, so that way you can find a way of eating that feels good to you both physically, mentally, and emotionally. The reason why we're talking about this book in particular, if you're watching this you can see it, but this book in particular, because out of every single nutrition book that I've ever read, this is the only one that has actually changed me. And why that is because it hasn't just changed what I eat and how I eat, but it changes the way that I think, changes the way that I see food, but also, more importantly, how I see myself and my health and my fitness. And at the end of the day, that is what we're really after, is changing the way that we think and changing who we are and our nature, because if we can change our nature, then we can change our behavior. So that is why we are going to be talking about intuitive eating today, breaking down what it is and what it isn't. Now, before we get into the weeds, welcome to the 1% Healthier podcast. I am Megan Timpson. I am a fitness and nutrition coach, and more specifically, I am a holistic personal trainer. So I'm not going to prescribe to you like a diet or a workout plan. I don't think that is really going to solve your problem. That's kind of why we're talking about intuitive eating today, is I like to focus more on the roots and taking care of your mindset, your desires, your behaviors, what it is that we're really after, and working on those things so that way you truly can be more intentional about your progress and achieve the transformation that you're really after. So that's a little bit of insight into who I am and why we're going to be talking about these topics today, because I know chances are if you're watching this or listening to this podcast, you are somebody who really deeply cares about your health and your fitness, and it means a lot to you. And maybe one of the fears that has held you back from intuitive eating is that you feel like it's a choice between being healthy and intuitive eating. I know that was something that held me back, because I thought that intuitive eating was just about eating whatever, whenever, and a lot of it was based on emotions and that unconditional permission to eat piece. And that is a part of it, but that is not the whole part of it. When you become an intuitive eater, it's not a this or that, it's both. It is healthy eating and honoring your body, honoring your emotions, taking care of yourself. And we're going to dive into all of the principles, and I'm going to lay it out and organize it really nice for you so that you have a really good understanding of what it is. And I think one of the other misconceptions that people have about it, about what it is not, just so that we're clear, is it's not the willy-nilly. It's not no structure. It's not just eating whatever you want whenever you want to, because a lot of the times when people on social media say that intuitive eating didn't work for them, they jumped right from having all this structure to tracking and then having like a diet mindset and then bringing that into intuitive eating and then eating whatever they wanted and then saying it doesn't work for them. And their focus was still on the food, not about the roots. It was still on their body, not about the desires and what we were really trying to achieve with intuitive eating, which is that freedom and that peace of mind, and having food not take up so much space in our life. So the point is that we can't just magically jump from being all structured into completely trusting our bodies without walking there and slowly changing. So we have to have this foundation first, so that way you can gain that trust and have that control without feeling like you completely lose all types of control once you start to trust your body again. And I say again because all the diet behaviors that we have learned. And so we can also unlearn them. Something I do want you to know as well is that, to me, when I talk about healthy mindset and healthy eating, to me that is a balance of foods as well as a healthy relationship with food. That is healthy eating to me. It is about the food, but it is also about the mindset. And I want you to know too that you do not have to have a disordered relationship with food or disordered eating patterns to want to improve how you think about food, to want to improve your relationship with food, to want to eat healthier for yourself. You don't have to wait until it is quote unquote that bad to start wanting to take care of yourself in a healthier way. So just know that, because if I had shin splints and I waited months and months and months till I got a broken leg to go to see the doctor, that would not be helpful. On your first inkling that there might be something wrong, why don't we start to take care of that? So hint, intuitive eating. So let's dive into on what it is, what it isn't, what it can do for you, and the principles behind it, and how to know if you are ready for intuitive eating, because I think that is also another overlooked part of intuitive eating, is that you might not be ready for it. Because I know when I first picked up this book, it stayed on my coffee table for months. I picked it up and I started to read it, and I'll read a couple of parts from this book that made me be like, oh, I am not ready for that yet. So there it remained on my coffee table, just staring at me, waiting for me until I was ready. And I think one of those pieces of being ready for it is you have to want to change, because nobody is going to want to change for you. Nobody can change for you. Nobody can do the things. It has to be you and your decision. And when you realize that you would rather change and try something else than you would stay the same, that is when you're ready for intuitive eating. So we're going to talk about a couple things that might show you that you're ready for it. Now, what is intuitive eating? Intuitive eating, based on the book here, it is a self-care framework that talks about the unconditional permission to eat when hungry and what food is desired. It is about eating for physical rather than emotional reasons. It's about reliance on internal hunger and satiety cues to determine when and how much to eat. And simplistically, it really is about a self-care framework. And it was written by 2 dietitians who found that over time, their clinic and their practice, that the traditional diets were not working for their clients, and it was really unsustainable. Nothing was sticking. They weren't finding fulfillment. Their clients weren't finding fulfillment, and that healthy and sustainable lifestyle that we're all after, diets are not going to bring us that. And if we continue to buy into the idea that the next diet is what's going to save us, then we are in for a rude awakening, because it's going to keep happening over and over and over again. So that's what it is. When we think about intuitive eating, think about it as a self-care framework for eating. It is not another diet. Now, another thing about intuitive eating that I wanted to share with you is what can intuitive eating do for you? Because a lot of the times when we think about diets, we think about, okay, it's going to make us healthier. Okay, so let's talk about intuitive eating and that self-care framework and that way of eating and approaching food. What can that do for you? Intuitive eaters have higher self-esteem, have higher well-being and optimism. There's a variety of foods eaten. They have higher body appreciation and body acceptance. They have higher interoceptive awareness, pleasure from eating, proactive coping, psychological hardiness, unconditional self-regard, life satisfaction. They have lower disordered eating, lower emotional eating, lower self-silencing, loss of control or binge eating, less weight bias internalization, lower blood pressure, lower body dissatisfaction. There is a lot of things that a mindset around food can do for you, and a healthier mindset around food can do for you, that genuinely improves your well-being. That is what I've experienced, I would say, the most. Is it has changed the way that I see food. It has changed the way that I see myself. It has also changed the way that I see life, in a way, which is also super nice. The second chapter of this book, it talks about hitting diet bottom. Like, what is your diet rock bottom? Which I find really interesting, because what is your rock bottom? Because a lot of the times people, they either change out of fear or they change out of faith. Either like they want to be proactive, they want to like take that leap of faith and go for something, or they push their back against the wall and they're not going to change until there's no other option than to change. And that, I feel like, is what the diet rock bottom is. And I honestly kind of feel like that's where I was I didn't want to continue living like that anymore. I didn't want to continue like my food taking up so much room in my life and affecting my relationships, affecting the way that I see myself, affecting my work, for the negative, all for the negative too. And what's interesting is it talks about here what might be some symptoms of diet backlash, or what you might call like diet, or you're getting close to the diet rock bottom. One of those could be the mere contemplation of going on a diet brings on urges and cravings for quote unquote sinful foods like ice cream, chocolate, or cookies. It could also mean upon ending a diet, going on a binge or feeling guilty. It could also be having little trust in yourself with food. It could also be feeling that you don't deserve to eat. It could also be shortened dieting duration. So the ability for yourself to stick to a diet gets shorter and shorter, from months to weeks to days. It gets harder and harder to stick to. Ooh, that's a sign that it might be time that you're at diet rock bottom and need to change. Another sign would be the Last Supper mentality, which is when you know that you're going to start a diet on Monday, then you treat every meal as your last supper, your last time to go out to eat, your last time to have desserts, your last time to be with friends and family and eat whatever you want to. You're treating it like the last time that you'll ever eat or enjoy food again. And that makes it very hard to stick to a diet, because if you can't do something for your lifetime, do not waste your time doing it for a day. And if you have this last supper mentality, I witnessed this a lot whenever we would do challenges in the gym when I was coaching at F45, for example. A lot of people would say, oh, the challenge starts on Monday. We are going to go out to eat. We're going to have the last time. We're going to have Mexican food, whatever it is. And be like, guys, you're missing the point. A challenge, I feel like, is not about cutting out all of these things and the joy of your life. It's about trying to be healthier. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we could go down. A couple others that I want to mention that it might be signs that you are needing a change in your relationship with food is social withdrawal. You essentially withdraw from all social occasions because you cannot control the food there. You are trying to be really healthy and don't want to be either seen as being unhealthy, or you don't want to try and stay on plan while you're going out to eat or at a party or whatever, so you just withdraw and you don't even go. Another one would be a sluggish metabolism. Another one would be using caffeine to survive the day because you are needing other tools to feel energetic because you are underfed. And another would be disordered eating patterns, which again is just one of those reasons why you might want to turn to intuitive eating and changing the way that you think about food. Really quickly, I'm going to give you an overview of the different principles of intuitive eating, so that way you have a good understanding of what we're going to go over today. So the principles of intuitive eating are: principle number 1, rejecting the diet mentality; principle 2, honor your hunger; 3, make peace with food; 4, challenge the food police; 5, discover the satisfaction factor; 6, feel your fullness; 7, cope with your emotions with kindness; 8, respect your body; 9, movement, feel the difference; and 10, honor your health, gentle nutrition. All of these we're going to talk about just a little bit more in depth so that you have a good understanding of what those principles actually mean and what that would look like in your life if you are trying to start to adapt this way of thinking about food, or just, again, wanting to change the way that you think about food. And one of the things I like about intuitive eating is that there is nuance to it, that there is no right or wrong, and this is about progress and not perfection. Because with intuitive eating, it's helping you to tune into that inner wisdom that'll help you feel better in your mind, body, and spirit. And I do want to clarify one thing that it says here in the book is, at this point, we feel it is important to clarify the pursuit of weight loss issue. We understand that you may be feeling uncomfortable in your body and that you believe that weight loss will allow you to have all the life experiences that you may be avoiding. We have tremendous compassion for this as you experience the pressure that diet culture puts on you to meet unrealistic goals of achieving society's culturally thin ideal. Our goal is to help you find the richest life you can, regardless of your size or shape, and to help you focus on the behaviors that have kept you from feeling the best you can, both physically and emotionally. Remember that focusing on the weight loss will interfere with your ability to make choices based on your body's signals. And the reason I read that is because one of the reasons why I was not ready to start intuitive eating the first time I picked up the book was because I still wanted weight loss. That was all I cared about, was trying to change how I looked. And I thought that I was doing all the right things, and it was really exhausting to feel like I was tracking all the food that I was eating, but if I was really honest with myself, there was things that I wasn't tracking, because there was times when I would go way off the plans and then start back over on Monday, as many of us do. And I would keep saying to myself, I just have to follow the plan harder. I just have to follow the plan harder. And then finally I'm going to get the weight loss, and finally I'm going to have this amazing life that I think that I'm going to have once I achieve the weight loss. But the reality is, again, we're not focusing on the roots of the problem. We are focusing on the branches of what would come as a result of you focusing on who you are and the behaviors, which will then get you the results that you're looking for. So when we talk about intuitive eating and being ready for that, one of the first stages is like you hit the diet rock bottom, but then to like being aware of where you're at and the conscious learning of trying to see how intuitive eating can work in your life and exploring that and starting to practice those intuitive eating behaviors. But one of my favorite parts about this book too that I would want to read is that your concerns about weight will diminish as you appreciate the other qualities that make you the unique person that you are. That should be highlighted and remembered, is that when you start to appreciate who you are as a person, then your concerns about weight become less and less of an issue, and you're again more focused on developing yourself and taking care of yourself in a way that is actually healthy for you, both physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, all the things. So now let's dive into the principles of intuitive eating, each one of those, so that you have a really good understanding of what intuitive eating is. And I do want to say, disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only. This is not to substitute any medical advice or be personalized to you. So with that being said, let's jump into the principles so that you have a good foundation and understanding of how it works, how you can use it, and how you can heal your relationship with food and create a healthy and sustainable lifestyle that works for you. Principle number 1, reject the diet mentality. Throw out the diet books and magazines and articles that offer you a false sense of hope of losing weight quickly, easily, and permanently. Get angry at diet culture that promotes weight loss and the lies that have led you to feel as if you were a failure every time a new diet stopped working and you gained all the weight back. If you allow even one small hope to linger that a new and better diet or food plan might be lurking around the corner, it will prevent you from being free to rediscover intuitive eating. And when we talk about this, it's very important to understand why we have that diet mentality, why the diet mentality is there in the first place, so that you can move through it. You can be compassionate, you can be curious about where these things came from in the first place, exploring your diet history, letting go of what you feel like dieting might give you, and what you feel like why you feel like weight loss is so important. This takes quite a bit of unraveling, I would say, and that's probably why it's first, is because you have to have a really good understanding of what's going on and what's led you to where you are, and just thinking about your past diet history, because maybe I don't even need to tell you this, but just looking at your past experience with diets, has it gotten you to where you want to go? And if it hasn't gotten you to where you want to go, then why do you think that another diet is going to get you there? I know that it's probably another shiny object, another promise, but the proof is in the pudding. If it hasn't gotten you there yet, then maybe it's time to change the way that you think about food in general, think about diets. So one of the biggest points that they make is you literally need to reject the idea that the next diet will save you, that the next diet is going to be the one that changes things. We need to realize that there is a better life for you beyond dieting, and I want to give you a couple examples too of what dieting can look like and what food rules can look like, because sometimes we might think, oh yeah, I'm not dieting, I'm not following like paleo, I'm not following keto, I'm not doing this, that, or the other, but it doesn't mean that you don't have a diet mindset, which was really interesting for me to learn about. Was, oh wow, I actually have a diet mindset that I genuinely need to unlearn. I'm going to read you this list of different ways that quote unquote pseudo dieting can show up in your life when you feel like you're not necessarily dieting, but you still have a diet mindset. That's the thing that I realized eventually, was that I might not be following keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, whole food, Whole30, whatever it is, but I still had a mindset of dieting. And here's how that can show up in life. One way might be meticulously counting carbohydrate grams or macros as the modern version of counting calories. Again, it's about trying to control weight most of the time. Another way is eating only quote-unquote safe foods, which are the foods that are your go-to for low calorie, low carb, carb-free, fat-free. Again, in your back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, what's lower calorie? Lower calorie is safe. Another way would be only allowing yourself to eat at certain times of the day, meaning you have to have breakfast after a certain time. You cannot eat after a certain time. You have to have lunch at a certain time. When you only allow yourself to eat at times, not based off of your hunger cues, that is the way that dieting is showing up in your life, whether or not you realize it. Another way of it showing up is paying penance for eating quote-unquote bad foods, which means after I ate something, I felt that I need to burn off the calories. Another way is cutting back on food. So if clothes feel tight, then you have this subconscious desire to, okay, I need to start under eating. And then another way is ignoring your hunger or trying to treat your hunger by using liquid calories or like diet soda or coffee or water or even chewing gum, I would say. Another one is just limiting carbohydrates in general. Another one is putting on a false food face, they say, in public, which is when you go out to eat, you're eating the healthy things, you're putting on like a good front, like I'm the healthy friend, so I'm going to order the salad, I'm going to order the things that are quote unquote on plan or what people think is healthy, but it's not what I want, and it makes me appear as a health conscious person, but if they saw what I did alone, then I would be very embarrassed, like that kind of idea. Another one would be competing with somebody else who is dieting, so trying to appear more virtuous or healthier than them. Another one would be second guessing or judging what you deserve to eat based on what you've eaten earlier that day or over the weekend. Another way would be to pursue being vegan or vegetarian or gluten-free only for the purpose of losing weight, not for ethical reasons or not because you need to be gluten-free. And then another way is rigidly healthy, where you literally are very specific and strict for no other purpose but besides trying to be healthy, and it's very inflexible. And then the last one would be it's a quote-unquote lifestyle. It says counting macros is not a lifestyle, counting points is not a lifestyle. It just isn't. So that's a really important thing to understand, is you do not have to be following a quote-unquote diet to have diet-like behaviors or diet-like mindsets that you might want to change or might want to work on or unravel. Because the more that you feed into the diet mindset, whether or not you realize it, you're following this circle of we have a desire to be thin, then we start to diet, then we have cravings and reduced self-control, then a loss of control and overeating, regain of the weight, and then back to the top, a desire to be thin, diet, cravings, loss of control, regain of the weight, over and over and over again. And one day you're going to realize, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this diet cycle. I'm tired of this all or nothing mentality. I want out. I want different. And that is why that is like the first principle of intuitive eating, is realizing what it actually is and what diet mindset you have. Principle number 2, honor your hunger. Keep your body biologically fed with adequate energy and carbohydrates. Otherwise, you can trigger a primal desire to overeat. Once you reach the moment of excessive hunger, all intentions of moderate, conscious eating are fleeting and irrelevant. Learning to honor this first biological signal sets the stage for rebuilding trust with yourself and with food, which is very important to understand that there are 4 different types of hunger, and primarily this talks about the biological hunger cues that you have, because your body knows when to eat. Sometimes we just forget that our body knows what to do, and we think that we know best. We think that an app knows best, but at the end of the day, our body knows best, and we've just forgotten that, and we've forgotten to trust. And I want to read you this. The first step to reclaiming the world of normal eating, free of dieting and free of food worry, is to honor your biological hunger. Your body needs to know consistently that it will have access to food, that dieting and deprivation have been halted once and for all. It is much easier to stop eating when you truly know that you will be able to eat again. Even rats, when they are food deprived, they overeat. Like, that is a literal biological response to is overeating. It is a biological response. And I think once you realize that the cure to overeating is not undereating, because that's going to keep you in the same cycle, but eating enough. When you know and you trust you are going to eat enough, when you know and trust that there is going to be a food, that it is not scarce, you will finally stop overeating and honoring your hunger and like truly being at peace. And that's the crazy part that I remember feeling for the first time, was instead of feeling out of control around the French fries or feeling out of control around any dessert or chocolate that was in the house, I knew that it could be there at any point. It could be there at any point, and I could have it if I wanted to. But you can say that all you want to, but until you show yourself and until you truly believe it, your body won't believe it. And so that's one of those things that you have to work on and unravel, to show yourself that you actually do trust yourself, and it's not going to go away. And that's just the first type of hunger, which is the biological hunger. The other ones that are important to understand is taste hunger, practical hunger, which is you planning ahead, and emotional hunger. So not only is it that we can eat and should eat when we start to feel hungry, when we start to physically get distracted, or we physically feel in our stomach that we're ready to eat, but also if there are instances when there's a food that just simply sounds good or an occasion calls for it, that's what's called taste hunger. And you can have the food just because it sounds good, and that's okay. Another one is the practical hunger, which is planning ahead. So if I'm going out to run errands and I'm not necessarily starving right now, but I know I'm gonna be gone for hours, I'm gonna be hungry, and I don't necessarily want to be ravenous while I'm out, and I don't know what food's gonna be around. I don't necessarily want to like stop and get something to eat, so I'm gonna eat now. I'm planning ahead, and that's a way of caring for myself now. I'm, again, being practical about when I know that I will be hungry. And then the third one is emotional hunger. It is actually okay to eat due to emotions. The only thing is we don't want it to be our only emotional coping skill. And once we are able to identify what is biological hunger versus emotional hunger, it becomes really easy to figure out why I want to eat, because a lot of the times it's not, the emotional eating is not the problem. The problem is either that it's our only way of coping with our emotions is food. But if we find and we figure out, okay, well, I actually am eating because I'm lonely, or I'm eating because I'm bored, then it just brings awareness around, okay, this is what's actually happening, so what am I going to do from here? I could use other coping skills. I could talk to somebody. I could journal. I could go for a walk. But at the end of the day, if I'm not solving the problem of like why I'm feeling the loneliness, or why I'm feeling boredom, or why I feel like I need a distraction, if I'm not addressing that and I'm just using food to mask it, then that's where we're going to continuously get frustrated with ourselves, is because we think that food is the problem when really it's not. So there's probably, again, some underlying needs that need to be taken care of here. Along with that, one of the things that I had learned in my journey of intuitive eating was if food was the only source of fun and pleasure and something that was exciting and enticing, then it's no wonder why I keep coming back to that. So maybe I need to find another way of having fun in my life. Like, I can read and do all like the personal development things, but if it's not fun, if I'm not adding fun things in my life, then it's no wonder that I'm using other things for it, if that makes sense. One thing I do want to point out too is when it comes to honoring our hunger is having a hunger and fullness scale. That was a little bit helpful for me to just kind of gauge where I was at before I ate, so that I could decide whether or not I wanted to continue eating or not. Because there's no right or wrong answer here. But when you can decide if you are overly hungry in a normal eating range or you're over full, it helps you to kind of gauge where you're at. And while you're eating, am I at a place where I am at a comfortable fullness? I feel satisfied and content. I don't want to eat anymore. At first, like, having the scale is helpful if you're a numbers person and you like to see that quantitatively, but in general it just helps. Okay, principle number 3, make peace with food. Call a truce, stop the food fight, give yourself unconditional permission to eat. If you tell yourself that you can't or shouldn't have a particular food, it can lead to intense feelings of deprivation that build into uncontrollable cravings and often binging. When you finally, quote-unquote, give in to your forbidden foods, eating will be experienced with such intensity, it usually will result in the Last Supper eating and overwhelming guilt. The Last Supper eating, again, I mentioned it earlier, but it is one of those topics that when you realize that the even thought that it's going to be restricted in the future, the threat of deprivation will cause you to then be out of control, or will make you want to overeat or lose self-control, which erodes your self-esteem, and it makes you think that you are the problem when really it is this diet mindset that really is what needs some work. Now, the part about finding peace with food is the unconditional permission to eat. And what that looks like is 3 different things, the bullet points we can think about. 1, getting rid of the idea that foods are either good or bad. 2, allowing yourself to eat what you really want. Ordering at the restaurant what you really want. And then 3, eating without trying to make up for it, burning the calories off, or you can say that I have the cheesecake now, but I'm going to diet later. We're going to get rid of that mindset. And what that looks like when we are getting rid of the mindset that food is either good or bad is that we are making foods emotionally equal. Food choices do not reflect your character. They do not make you a better person or a worse person. Food is just food. And like it says, no one food can make you healthy, and no one food can make you unhealthy. The same as no food can make you good, the same as no food can make you bad. And one of the best ways to do this is by allowing yourself to have these foods, allowing the foods that you feel like is forbidden. And there's a way to go about it that makes you feel not out of control around it, but literally just allowing yourself to have those foods without feeling guilty, without feeling like you are being a bad person for it, is going to help you so much. This process is a really, really pivotal one, and it's helped me a lot. And I remember I had a conversation with a client one time where she was talking about how she never allowed any of these foods into her house. And so it was really easy to, when she did have them, that she would overeat them. But once she decided that that food is not a good food or a bad food, and she allowed it into her house more often, then it lost its power. It lost its nuance. It was just a common food, and therefore it wasn't as exciting. It didn't have the power. It wasn't on the pedestal anymore. And so you're taking the power back from letting foods rule your life. And I mentioned this too the other day on Instagram, is that if you feel quote unquote addicted to sugar, or you feel like you're overeating it, it's not a sign that you need to restrict it. It is a sign that you need to stop restricting it. Because the more that you restrict something, the more it becomes scarce, your desire for it will increase. So again, by making peace with food, you are allowing it into your life more. And then last point I want to mention on this one is, if your mouth is chewing but your mind is saying, I shouldn't be eating this, then your mind is still on a diet, and we need to unravel, again, the mindset. Okay, principle number 4 is challenge the food police. Scream a loud no to the thoughts in your head that declare you're good for minimal calories or bad because you ate a piece of chocolate cake. The food police monitor the unreasonable rules that diet culture has created. The police station is housed deep in your psyche and is a loudspeaker that shouts negative barbs, hopeless phrases, and guilt-provoking indictments. Chasing the food police away is a critical step into returning to intuitive eating. So this part, again, allowing yourself to recognize and get curious about the food talk and the food rules that you have. And in the book, it talks about the different voices, I guess you could say, about the food police and how that shows up in the food rules that we have. One of the things I think is really interesting about the self-talk piece is that if we can challenge the nonsense in our heads, we will end up feeling better. And when we feel better, we'll act better. It's been shown multiple times that if you can first change your beliefs, your feelings and your behaviors will also change in a chain-like reaction. And I remember when I was reading that, it's just one of those phrases that really aligns with who I am as a person. And then with 1% healthier, it's like, yes, that makes so much sense. Like, this is, again, why intuitive eating is, because it is going to help you align with changing your nature and then changing your behavior. Okay, number 5, discover the satisfaction factor. The Japanese have the wisdom to promote pleasure as one of their goals of healthy living. In our fury to comply with diet culture, we often overlook one of the most basic gifts of existence, the pleasure and satisfaction that can be found in the eating experience. When you eat what you really want in an environment that is inviting, the pleasure you derive will be a powerful force in helping you feel satisfied and content. This, again, once you read this, it is so eye-opening to the fact that, oh my gosh, when was the last time that I ate something that was actually satisfying to me? When was the last time that not only is this about being a mindful eating and sitting down to eat, but thinking about like the texture of the food, the smell of the food, the experience when you're eating. Are you eating when you're at work and you're standing up and you're rushing, you have 15 minutes, or are you like allowing yourself to sit down and being present with your meals? That makes a big difference in how satisfied you are after your meal. And if you're not satisfied with your meal, then that's what's going to make you go and look for something else to eat, or trying to fill that void with something else if you're not able to get it while you're eating. A couple of questions that you can ask yourself about increasing your satisfaction with meals is asking, what do I feel like eating? What food will look good to my eye? How will the food taste and feel in my mouth? Do I want something sweet, salty, savory, sour, or even slightly bitter? Do I want something crunchy, smooth, soft, or fluid? Do I want something hot, cold, or moderate? Do I want something light, airy, heavy, or filling, or something in between? How will my stomach feel when I'm finished eating? Those are just a couple of questions that you can ask yourself. Again, bringing back to the satisfaction factor of making your meals something that is enjoyable for you, not just a chore, because food is to be enjoyed, and sometimes I think that we forget that. And another part of the satisfaction is checking in with yourself often to see if the food tastes as good as it did when you started eating, because then if it doesn't taste as good, then you can wait till you're hungry again and the food will taste better and you'll be even more satisfied. Principle number 6, feel your fullness. In order to honor your fullness, you need to trust that you will give yourself the foods that you desire. Listen for the body signals that tell you that you are no longer hungry and observe the signs showing that you are comfortably full. Pause in the middle of eating and ask yourself how the food tastes and what your current hunger level is. This kind of goes back to the hunger and fullness scale a little bit, but this, again, is like a skill to learn. When you think about when you were growing up and you were playing sports or something, it took a lot of hours and practice to make it look effortless and easy, but you know that it took a lot of work to perfect that skill. And when we see people that have a healthy relationship with food where it just seems effortless to them, that they are full and they don't want food anymore, or they're going to save something for later, when you're like, how on earth can you not finish your plate? When we think about that, we don't know their background or anything, but for us, understanding it's going to take time and practice to get to that spot where we feel like it's effortless. And when we have that perspective, it's going to take time to learn, because honoring your hunger and your fullness is a skill. It gives you perspective and it helps you to be a little bit more patient on your journey when you're learning to recognize like what is comfortable satiety for you. Like, am I comfortable at this level of fullness? Do I want more? It's not bad if I want more. And again, there is no right or wrong answer, and I think that that is the beauty of it. Something to think about too with our fullness is we might eat something and then wonder, okay, well, why am I hungry? Allowing yourself to get curious again as to why I'm hungry. Like, what did I actually eat? Like, what was the macronutrient profile? Did I have carbs? Did I have fats? Did I have proteins? Did I have color? Did I have any micronutrients in there? How long ago did I eat? Did I eat enough? Like, getting curious about those things will help you to, again, not make your hunger and fullness the enemy, because it's not. Principle number 7, cope with your emotions with kindness. First, recognize that food restriction, both physically and mentally, can, in and of itself, trigger loss of control, which can feel like emotional eating. Find ways to comfort, nurture, distract, and resolve your issues. Anxiety, loneliness, boredom, and anger are emotions we all experience through life. Each has its own trigger, and each has its own appeasement. Food won't fix any of these things. It may comfort in the short term, distract from the pain, or even numb you, but food won't solve the problem. You'll ultimately have to deal with the source of the emotion. This is one of the biggest skills that we need in life, is emotional regulation, and allowing ourselves to learn and apply and figure out where our emotional needs are and where we're trying to meet them with food will help us so much to move ourselves forward, to move ourselves along our fitness journey, to be the person that we want to be, because it is going to require stress management. It is going to require coping with emotional eating when that feels appropriate, when I might need something else besides food to cope with the emotions that I'm feeling. There's a lot that goes into meeting your needs as a human, and I think that this is one of the things I'm grateful for intuitive eating for, was helping me see the gaps in the plan. That it wasn't all gas, no brakes, essentially. That I needed to find ways to rest, that I needed to express my feelings, I needed to be heard, I needed to be understood. I wanted to feel loved, I wanted to feel appreciated. All these other things that food could provide in the short term or relieve from the short term, but not solve. And again, it's that holistic approach that, yes, it will help in the short term, but again, it's not going to change until you get to the root of why it's there and the root of how to take care of it. So that's one of the things that you're going to learn with intuitive eating. And I think a simple thing that helps too when you're thinking about, okay, well, am I biologically hungry? Or you're asking, what am I feeling? But then 3, asking yourself, what do you actually need? What do I need right now? Do I need a break? Do I need to play? Do I need a hug? Do I need a feeling? Like, what am I really after? And once you get down to that, that will help you to solve the root of why the problem is happening, not just putting a Band-Aid on the solution. Principle 8, respect your body, accept your genetic blueprint. Just as a person with a shoe size of 8 would not expect to realistically squeeze into a size 6, it is equally futile and uncomfortable to have the same expectation about body size. But most importantly, respect your body so that you feel better about who you are. It's hard to reject the diet mentality if you are unrealistic and critical about your body size or shape. All bodies deserve dignity. I remember when I was first learning intuitive eating, it was really challenging for me to try and accept that this is my body, or trying to accept that this is where I was because I just so badly wanted to change. It says here that one of the fears that people have around accepting their current body size is that they fear it would mean complacency, that they're okay with how they look and that they don't want to change, when really they do want to change. And they talk themselves into the belief that there is honor and dignity in continuing the fight, to continue to try and fight for the change. But the reality is, when you're caught in the I hate my body mindset, it is all too easy to start to delay good things for yourself and waiting until you feel like you have a body that you think is more deserving, when the reality is you are deserving of good things right now, that you are more than your body right now. And it's a hard realization to make, but just because you are accepting your body right now doesn't mean that you don't want to change it. You can still want to change your body, and you can still, again, want to be healthy and want to improve your health and want to improve your fitness. But that doesn't mean that you have to hate yourself right now or say that you are undeserving of fitness right now because you don't like what you look like. This is one that we could make multiple podcast episodes talking about, is body image and everything. But the thing is, I'm not saying to disregard your body. Instead, the invitation is to respect and appreciate your body right here, right now. Think about this example when it comes to respecting your body in the here and now. There was a time in your life where you are at a smaller body size and you feel like if you could just get back to that body size, then you would be happy. But let me give you a reality check. When you were at that body size, you still were insecure. You were still trying to change your body. You were still not happy with how you looked. You still told yourself that I will be happy once I lose the weight. You were still unhappy with how you looked then. So what makes you think it will change in the future? That's what I want you to get really honest about, is that your body right here, right now, deserves to be taken care of. It deserves to eat healthy. You deserve to take care of it by exercising, and not to try and change how you look, but because you are a person that needs to be cared for and that you need respect. And you do not have to earn respect because of how you look. So just think about that. Remember this. You said the same things about yourself when you were a different size. So what makes you think it'll be any different now or in the future? That's why it is so important for you to respect yourself now, is because it's not going to change in the future if you don't change right now. So start saying kinder things to yourself. Start dressing yourself in a way that feels good to you, because anybody that puts on a piece of tight clothing, regardless of their body size, is going to be uncomfortable. So dressing in a way that feels good to you, eating in a way that feels good to you, and exercising in a way that feels good to you, that is respecting your body right here, right now, and you deserve that. Principle number 9, movement, feel the difference. Forget militant exercise, just get active and feel the difference. Shift your focus to how it feels to move your body rather than the calorie burning effect of exercise. If you focus on how you feel from working out, such as energized, it can make the difference between rolling out of bed for a brisk morning walk or hitting the snooze alarm. Again, it comes down to, instead of exercising to try and control your body size or control the amount of calories that you're burning, it becomes about how you feel. If you know that morning movement is going to make you better able to handle the stress throughout the day, make you more mentally clear, help you get rid of the brain fog, help you have more energy, getting sunlight into your eyes, and all these other things that make you feel good, then movement becomes way more to you and way more meaningful to you than just burning calories, and way, 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 way more fulfilling as well. Something to note about the movement part as well is knowing that it's not wrong to want to exercise more to feel good. It's just that we want to be careful of not falling into the diet trap of weight loss, where we become a slave to working out and thinking about all the calories that we burn and all the steps that we walk. Because it is one thing to invest several hours into training when you're getting ready for a marathon or because you're an athlete. But it is a problem, however, when exercise consumes you and begins to interfere with your everyday living. Exercising more isn't necessarily better. How do you know if you are reaching your outer limits of exercise? Here are some signs of compulsive exercise. 1 is the inability to stop, even when you're sick or injured. 2, feeling guilty if you miss a day. 3, the inability to sleep at night is a sign of overtraining. 4, paying the exercise penance, which is if you eat too much, you feel like you need to run extra miles or walk more to burn it off. And then 5, being afraid that you will suddenly gain weight if you stop for a single day. These are some things to also bring awareness to when it comes to the movement piece is, am I able to rest? Am I able to take time off without feeling guilty? Again, this comes down to the mindset, and again, we can be more mindful around our exercise, we can be more healthy, and this is just a piece. The last principle is principle number 10, honor your health with gentle nutrition. Make food choices that honor your health and taste buds while making you feel good. Remember that you do not have to eat perfectly to be healthy. You will not suddenly become nutrient deficient or become unhealthy from one snack, one meal, or one day of eating. It is what you eat consistently over time that matters. Progress, not perfection, is what counts. Isn't that awesome? I love the principle of gentle nutrition for that it is about progress and not perfection, and that there is no right or wrong way. And when we think about balanced eating, it is not a balanced meal every single time that you eat. It is about a balanced diet over time. Of the things that you eat over the course of a week, over the course of a month, are we getting in what we need? And I like their definition too of healthy eating is that it is having a healthy balance of foods and having a healthy relationship with food. When we think about it being progress, not perfection, it allows you to stop having this all or nothing mentality when it comes to eating healthy. Okay, so you went out, you had a vacation, and you didn't eat the way that you normally do. Okay, today's a new day, right? It's a fresh start. It's a chance to think about, what do I need? Again, and being honest with yourself, am I eating enough? Am I getting fruits and vegetables? Am I eating all the macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats? You might say that you're eating enough, but if all you're eating is protein, then you're not eating enough. You need all the macronutrients. And then, are you drinking enough water? That's another thing too, is are we taking care of our health and making sure that we're getting in what we know that we need? Asking yourself, do I like the taste of these foods? Am I getting a variety of foods? And these are all just principles that will help you to find a way of eating that feels good, both mentally and physically. And we can dive into the nuances of each of those principles even more. But again, I think it is so important for you to understand that if you truly want to change how you eat, you need to change how you think about food. You need to change your mindset. And that's where intuitive eating comes in. It's not only going to change the way you think about food, but it's going to change the way that you think about yourself, about your body. Because if all the decisions that you make about food is, will this make me gain weight or lose weight, then we're missing the whole point of food. I hope that this helps you to get real insight on what intuitive eating actually is. Those are the 10 principles. If there's a principle in particular that you want me to dive into, let me know in the comments and we can really unpack these things. But if you have gotten this far into the video, I want you to comment not only like a section that you liked, but also your favorite food emoji. Not like your favorite food in real life, but your favorite food emoji. Which one is your favorite to use, or which one do you like or think is the most unique? And then 2 other things before we end this podcast today is number one, if you are trying to be more intentional about your health, about your fitness, and are trying to change the way that you think about it, join my weekly newsletter, the Sunday 1% Better letter. The link to join is in the description box below. You'll get a newsletter every Sunday that will help you to change the way that you think about food, will help you change the way that you think about your body, about yourself, and about your health and fitness journey, so that way you can become the person that you've always wanted to be. So the link is in the description box below, and if you haven't already, please give the podcast a 5-star rating and review, or you can subscribe if you are on YouTube. And this is where I'll end the podcast, is remember that you are more than a body to be looked at. You are a person to be taken care of, and I hope that intuitive eating helps you. And if you haven't read the book, you will love the book. All right.